Okay, we are going to be looking at college football preview. We're going to be looking at FBS conferences, the American Athletic, ACC, Big 10, Big 12, Conference USA, Mid-America, Mountain West, Pac-12, SEC, Sun Belt, and the Independents. Yes, you're going to get all that on my report. First conference I'm going to start with is going to be the American Athletic Conference. So stick around. And I'm going to have the college football preview coming at you. So there's a lot I want to get to in breaking down the college football landscape because, as you all know, we are basically in the midst of a pandemic, and it is altering a lot of what's going to happen on this upcoming football season. Keep in mind that some conferences have already said we're going to push our season back to the springtime. Those would be like your historically black colleges and university. I know they're going back to push their season back to the spring. You're looking at some of your Power 5 conferences looking at playing conference games only. So it's going to be an interesting college football season. But we're going to do our best. I'm going to do my best to give you some in-depth look at some teams, some conferences. I'm definitely going to be starting with the American Athletic Conference. Very interesting conference at that too. Actually, I'm going to also be looking into some things, some articles before we get to the conference breakdown, because there are some tidbits I think need to be brought up. So this first segment is going to be called High Fives. So what are high fives? Well, it's basically breaking down the 2020 college football season with 5 possible answers, each to 5 big questions entering the fall. So let's start with the impact transfer quarterbacks, because last year, 3 of the 4 Heisman Trophy finalists last year were transfer quarterbacks. That's life in the transfer portal era. And a new crop will take center stage this season. So starting with number 5, Peyton Ramsey, Northwestern. Ramsey made 23 starts at Indiana, and he was a proven dual threat with 6,581 passing yards, 832 rushing yards, 56 total TDs during his Hoosier career. He fits well with new offensive coordinator Mike Bahakian and will jumpstart the Wildcats offense. What's even more intriguing about this is, as transfer portal, he transferred to a school within the conference, coming from Indiana to Northwestern. Number 4, Felipe Franks, Arkansas. Franks returns from a season-ending ankle injury in a new home, and he gives first-year coach Sam Pittman an experienced quarterback to work with. Franks must, however, improve on the 59% career completion percentage he produced at Florida. Number 3, KJ Costello, Mississippi State. Mike Leach made the move from Washington State to Mississippi State, and that means Costello will have the opportunity to let it fly in a pass-happy offense for one of the game's most innovative head coaches. Costello has 29 starts worth of experience from his time at Stanford. Number 2, De'Aaron King, Miami. King is a dynamic athlete who had 50 total TDs with Houston before dealing with injuries last season. He should bounce back with new offensive coordinator Rhett Lashlee directing the Hurricanes' new look attack. Number 1, Jamie Newman, Georgia. Newman put up big stats at Wake Forest. He is tasked with replacing Jake Fromm, working with new offensive coordinator Todd Monken, and keeping Georgia in the national title hunt. No pressure. So now we move on. First-time playoff threats. LSU took advantage of its first college football playoff appearance in 2019 and won the national championship. That spiced up a sport in which 4 schools, Clemson, Alabama, Oklahoma, and Ohio State, have 17 of the 24 college football playoff appearances. Which program can make like LSU and earn their first CFP berth? Number 5, Oklahoma State. Heisman candidate Chuba Hubbard and dynamic receiver Tylan Wallace stayed in school. And that's welcome news for sophomore quarterback Spencer Sanders. The Cowboys have enough offense to win the Big 12. Number 4, Texas. Tom Herman has recruited enough talent to win now. And the return of quarterback Sam Ellinger is huge. The early season matchup against LSU and Oklahoma will determine whether the Longhorns are truly back. Number 3, Auburn. The Tigers are impossible to project each year, but the offense will evolve around sophomore QB Bo Nix. The biggest challenges are road games at Georgia and Alabama. Number 2, Florida. Kyle Trask is the right answer at quarterback for a season in which the Gators have 4 true road games. If Coach Dan Mullen can score victories against LSU and Georgia, then Florida will be in Atlanta for the SEC championship game. Number 1, Penn State. Coach James Franklin continues to build in Happy Valley. Sean Clifford returns at quarterback, and All-American linebacker Micah Parsons leads in athletic defense. Ohio State visits Beaver Stadium for a whiteout on October 24th in a game that should decide the Big Ten East. Coaches on the spot. Hot seat is a relative term considering the revolving door FBS coaches churn through each season. The following coaches might not be on the hot seat yet, but the pressure to win at these big-time programs continues to mount heading into 2020. Starting with number 5, Jim Harbaugh, Michigan. Michigan is 47-18 in the last 5 years, but Harbaugh's struggles against top 10 opponents and the 0-5 record against Ohio State stick out more than the improvements he has made to the program. Number 4, Chip Kelly, UCLA. Kelly is 7-17 the last 2 seasons at UCLA, and that includes a 7-11 record in conference play. There are real questions whether his offensive style fits in Westwood heading into year 3. Number 3, Scott Frost, Nebraska. Frost's rebuild at his alma mater is taking longer than expected. A 9-15 record in 2 years shows how far the Huskers need to go. It's time for Nebraska to be a legit contender in the Big Ten West. Number 2, Tom Herman, Texas. Herman recruits at a top 10 level, but the Longhorns have 10 losses by 8 points or fewer over the last 3 years. For Herman's job security, Texas cannot have another 5-loss season in 2020. And number 1, Clay Helton, USC. The Trojans are 13-12 the last 2 seasons, and new athletic director Mike Bond will have a tough time making a case to retain Helton if USC doesn't win the Pac-12 South. Dark Horse Heisman Candidates. Joe Burrow's odds to win the Heisman Trophy were 200-1 last June, but he enjoyed a record-setting season at LSU to win the coveted award. Here's a look at 5 contenders with odds of 30-1 or higher. Number 5 would be Najee Harris, Alabama, odds 60-1. The last running backs to win the Heisman played at Alabama. Harris, a multi-purpose talent, has a chance if he increases his total yardage into the 2,000 range. Number 4, Spencer Sanders, Oklahoma State, 50-1 odds. Chuba Hubbard's return is the headline, but Sanders is the type of quarterback who could pass for 3,000 plus yards and rush for at least 1,000 more. The voters cannot ignore that if the Cowboys are as good as they're expected to be. Number 3, Kedon Slovis, USC, 40-1 odds. Slovis passed for 14 TDs with 1 interception in USC's last 4 games, and he can build on that momentum with another year under offensive coordinator Graham Harrell. Number 2, Bo Nix, Auburn, 30-1. Nix and Howell will go head-to-head in week 2. Nix needs to improve on accuracy as a sophomore, but he can pile on rushing statistics and will have more than enough big games on the schedule to make a statement. Number 1, Sam Howell, North Carolina, odds 30-1. Howell set the true freshman record with 38 TD passes in 2019. The potential to lead the Tar Heels to the ACC championship game in Mack Brown's second season back in Chapel Hill is there. Now we go on to games you can't miss. College football holds the regular season sacred, and every year a handful of memorable games determine the playoff path outside of the traditional rivalries. These are the games you cannot miss in 2020. Number 5, Clemson at Notre Dame, November 7th. There is a good chance both teams have matching 8-0 records when they meet in South Bend for what should be a much closer matchup than the 2018 Cotton Bowl. quarterbacks Trevor Lawrence and Ian Book are both back for the occasion. Number 4, Ohio State at Penn State, October 24th. The Nittany Lions and Buckeyes have combined to win the last 4 Big Ten championships, and the Whiteout played a significant role in the 2016 and 2018 conference races. This midseason matchup will have the same huge stakes. Number 3, Georgia at Alabama, September 19th. The Bulldogs have not visited Bryant-Denny Stadium since 2007, which doubles as their last victory against the Crimson Tide. Both teams will have new quarterbacks, and former Alabama strength coach Scott Cochran will be on the Georgia sideline. Number 2, Ohio State at Oregon, September 12th. The first top 10 showdown of the season features the Buckeyes and second-year coach Ryan Day traveling across country to face an Oregon team desperate to get the Pac-12 back into the national conversation. And let me put a pin right there. Due to COVID-19 concerns, that game I think has been scratched. I will have that information for you later. Number 1, Texas at LSU, September the 12th. The Tigers' national championship run materialized in a 45-38 shootout victory at Texas last season. The Longhorns had chances in that game, and QB Sam Ellinger is back for the rematch in Death Valley. So there you have some high fives in different categories. I will take a break and I will be back. Okay, I am back. Hope you're enjoying what you're hearing thus far. As I try to bring you some insights on college football. I'm going to look at conferences starting with the American Athletic Conference, but let's take a look at the Heisman watch. As you would expect, 4 of 5 favorites for this year's top player honors are quarterbacks, as if that's not anything new. So, LSU's Joe Burrow won the Heisman Trophy at LSU last season after passing for 5,671 yards and 60 TDs. A quarterback has won college football's most prestigious award each of the last 5 seasons. It's a good bet it will be 5 in a row when you look at top candidates for 2020. Here's a quick breakdown. Trevor Lawrence, quarterback, Clemson. Lawrence is 25-1 as a starter with 2 college football playoff championship starts under his belt. If Lawrence can't avoid early season interceptions and pile up stats and blowouts, then he will be a first-time Heisman finalist. Justin Fields, quarterback, Ohio State. Fields totaled 41 passing TDs, 10 rushing scores, and 3 interceptions in his first year as a starter. He'll be even better with the year's experience in Ryan Day's system. While playing in a conference the Buckeyes should dominate again. Spencer Rattler, QB, Oklahoma. Rattler is an unknown, but we are trusting Coach Lincoln Riley's track record with Baker Mayfield, Kyler Murray, and Jalen Hurts. the last 3 seasons. Rattler also had a year to watch and learn. Sam Ellinger, quarterback, Texas. Ellinger will always put up enough stats to stay in the mix, but an early season victory at LSU would vault him into contention. A win at against Oklahoma would make him a favorite. Last, and a non-quarterback, Chuba Hubbard, running back, Oklahoma State. Hubbard returns for his redshirt junior season. If he can repeat last year's 2,000-yard effort and spearhead a Big 12 title run, he'll be at least a finalist. So there's your Heisman watch, your top 5 to look for. That's not to say that someone else could creep up in the mix. So we look at, right now, the projected top 25. Starting with number 25, Arizona State. Number 24, the upstart and continuing to get better, Appalachian State. Number 23, Iowa Hawkeyes. Number 22, Nebraska. 21, Tennessee. Number 20, Louisville. Number 19, from the American Athletic Conference, Cincinnati. Number 18, USC. Number 17, North Carolina. Number 16, Oklahoma State. Number 15, Texas A&M. Number 14, Michigan. Number 13, Texas. Number 12, Wisconsin. Number 11, Notre Dame. Number 10, LSU. Number 9, Auburn. Number 8, Georgia. Number 7, Florida. Number 6, Oregon. Number 5, Oklahoma. Number 4, Penn State. Number 3, Alabama. Number 2, Ohio State. And number 1, projected, Clemson. So there you have the 2020 preseason top 25. Looking at the 2020 preseason All-American, we're going to start on the defense, starting with the second team. You have defensive linemen. I'm going to name all 4 of them. Defensive lineman, Dylan Hayes, senior from Notre Dame. Quincy Roach, senior, Miami. Carlos Basham Jr., a senior from Wake Forest. Jay Tafel Jr. from USC. Linebackers, Dylan Moses Jr., Alabama. Patty Fisher, senior, Northwestern. Joe Tryon Jr., Washington. Defensive backs, Patrick Surtain II, Jr., Alabama. Sean Jolly Jr., Appalachian State. Caleb Fairley Jr., Virginia Tech. Defensive back, Richard LeCounte Sr., Georgia. Specialists, kicker, Nick Skiba Jr., Wake Forest. Punter, Trenton Gill Jr., North Carolina State. And returning, Damon Philia Johnson Jr. from Duke. Now we look at the second team offense. The quarterback, Justin Fields, Jr., Ohio State. Running backs, Najee Harris, Senior, Alabama. Javion Hawkins, Sophomore, Louisville. The offensive line, Walker Little, Senior, Stanford. Samuel Cosme, Jr., Texas. Trey Hill, Jr., Georgia. Drake Johnson, Senior, Kentucky. And Deontay Brown, Senior, Alabama. Tight end, Brevin Jordan, Jr., Miami. Wide receiver, Justin Ross, Jr., Clemson. Wide receiver, Rashad Bateman, Jr., Minnesota. Now we move over to the first team. Specialists, Gabe Brick, kicker, sophomore, Oklahoma. Punter, Max Duffy, Senior, Kentucky. And return man, Jalen Waddle, Jr., Alabama. The defense, starting with the defensive line, Gregory Rousseau, sophomore, Miami. Jalen Twyman, Jr., Pittsburgh. Kayvon Thibodeau, sophomore, Oregon. Marvin Wilson, Senior, Florida State. The linebackers, Hamilcar Rashed, Jr., Oregon State. Micah Parsons, Jr., Penn State. Chaz Surratt, Senior, North Carolina. Those were your linebackers. Defensive backs, Derek Stingley, Jr., sophomore, LSU. Sean Wade, Jr., Ohio State. Javon Holland, Jr., Oregon. And Andre Cisco, Jr., Syracuse. And now for the first team offense. Quarterback, Trevor Lawrence, Jr., Clemson. Running back, Chuba Hubbard, Jr., Oklahoma State. Travis Etienne, Senior, Clemson. Offensive line, Alex Leatherwood, Senior, Alabama. Penny Sewell, Jr., Oregon. Creed Humphrey, Jr., Oklahoma. Wyatt Davis, Jr., Ohio State. Trey Smith, Senior, Tennessee. That was your offensive line. Tight end, Pat Frymarth, Jr., Penn State. Wide receivers, Jamar Chase, Jr., LSU. Devontae Smith, Senior, Alabama. So there you have the preseason All-American team. I like my chances with some of those players. So, we will move ahead. And we'll come back and take a brief look at the AAC and what they are projected to do. We'll talk about the conference as a whole. And then on tomorrow, I will look at the individual teams. So stay tuned. I'll be back. Okay. Promise you I'll be back, and I am back. try to wrap up this last segment here. Before I move on, I want to send a shout out to my girl, my friend, who has her own little business called All Prep.
Put your hands up. Put your hands up.
Anisha Wembley. Y'all need to check her out. Whatever kind of meal you want, I'm pretty sure she can make it. I mean, I've had a spinach dip that she made. It was, as the young people say, it was lit. So the name of her business, her food business, is All Prep and No Play. So you need to give her a try. And I will post in my notes how you can reach her. By all means, check her out. Support local independent businesses. That's All Prep, No Play. Ranisha Lachey Wembley. Check her out. Give her your support. So let's look at the AAC, because this conference, I think people are kind of sleeping on. First thing we want to do is look at what their projected finishes are going to be. So we're going to start with 11th place, South Florida. Number 10, East Carolina. Number 9, Tulane. Then coming in at the 8th spot will be Tulsa, and they're projected to be in the Cure Bowl. Number 7, Houston. Their bowl projection, Boca Raton Bowl. Number 6, SMU, First Responder Bowl. Number 5, Navy, the Military Bowl. Number 4, Temple, the Fenway Bowl. Number 3, UCF, the Gasparilla Bowl. Number 2, Memphis, the Birmingham Bowl. And number 1, Cincinnati, the Peach Bowl. Now, when you look at the AAC, you have to look at their little track record. And the AAC looks to extend its New Year's 6 bowl streak. The American Athletic Conference will look significantly different in 2020. Things have changed since UConn's departure from the 8-year-old league. Now, with 11 teams gone, are the 6 school divisions that guided teams to the AAC championship game. Each team will play 8 league contests, and the schools with the top 2 records will advance to a title game. How will things look? It's unknown to the coaches, including Philip Montgomery, Tulsa's 6-year head man, who is second in league tenure to the dean of AAC coaches, Navy's Ken Niamatalo, has him beat with 13 seasons. It's going to be tough to really answer that without playing our way through it, Montgomery says. Our league just continues year after year to get better and better. In my opinion, we are playing in a power conference with the amount of talent and the coaches in this league. The proof was in the final Associated Press top 25 poll last season. The AAC had 4 ranked schools, with Memphis number 17, Navy number 20, Cincinnati 21, and UCF 24. Only the Big Ten, 6, and the SEC, 5, had more ranked teams. Now let me put a pause right there, because that is very significant, which means that the AAC also did better than other conferences such as the Big 12, which is usually, lately, Oklahoma first and whoever else wants second. Makes you wonder why come these Big 12 teams don't try to play some of these AAC schools. The American has represented the group of five in the New Year's Six bowl games during the last 3 seasons. UCF played the marquee games in 2017 and 2018, while Memphis advanced last season. Memphis and Cincinnati played in the AAC championship game in 2019 and figured to be the teams to beat again this season. The Tigers are under first-year coach Ryan Silverfield following predecessor Mike Norvell's departure to Florida State. Cincinnati almost lost its coach in Luke Fickell, but he turned down an opportunity to take over Michigan State. Both schools bring back plenty of talent to make a run at not only a conference title, but also another New Year's Six game for the young league. UCF is coming off a 10-3 campaign, which many programs would be trumpeting as a big success. But for a team that has won 35 of its last 39 games, the Knights are aiming to prove themselves once more on college football landscape. So what can we take away from this thus far? Well, for one, Memphis turnover. Ryan Silverfield takes over as head coach following Mike Norvell's departure for Florida State. While no spring football due to the coronavirus hurt the transition, his familiarity of being on staff since 2016 should help. Number 2, no more divisions. With 11 teams, each school will play 8 conference games with the top 2 teams at the end of the regular season, making the title game. Time to brush up on tiebreaker rules. Number 3, making an impact. The AAC finished last season with 4 schools ranked in the top 25, which is more than any conference outside the Big Ten and SEC. Can the league put together another big season? So let's look at the All-American Athletic All-Conference team projections. Punter, James Smith, senior, Cincinnati. Kicker, Riley Patterson, senior, Memphis. The defense, starting with the defensive lineman, Elijah Ponder, senior, Cincinnati. Ifeanyi Mahe, junior, Temple. Joseph Dorcius, senior, Memphis. O'Brien Goodson, senior, Memphis. Linebackers, Patrick Johnson, senior, Tulane. Zane Collins, junior, Tulsa. Diego Fagot, junior, Navy. Defensive backs, Ahmad Gardner, sophomore, Cincinnati. Aaron Robinson, senior, UCF. Richie Grant, senior, UCF. And Derek Forrest, senior, Cincinnati. The offense. Quarterback, Shane Buechele, senior, SMU. The running backs, Kenneth Gainwell, sophomore, Memphis. Shamari Brooks, senior, Tulsa. The guys up front, the offensive line, Jalen Thomas, Jr., SMU. Deontay Smith, Senior, East Carolina. Jakari Robinson, Jr., Cincinnati. Cole Schneider, Jr., UFC. Dylan Parham, Jr., Memphis. Your wide receivers, Jaden Blue Jr., Temple. Marquise Stevenson, Senior, Houston. And DeMonte Coxey, Senior, Memphis. So, rating the AAC. Looking at their recruiting and their ranks. Number 11, Navy. They recruited a total of 39 players. No 5 stars, no 4 stars, 3 12 stars. Point total, 128.76. Number 10, Tulsa. 19 players recruited. 16 3-star athletes. Total points, 138.25. South Florida. 15 3-star recruits. Their composite point total, 142.97. Temple recruited 19 players, 19 3-star players. Composite score, 145.30. Houston, 17 players recruited, 16 3-stars. Total composite, 155.32. SMU recruited total of 15 players, 15 3-stars. Total composite, 156.95. UCF inked 20 players, 23 stars, 162.97. East Carolina inked 27. A total of 25 3-star players, 163.06. Memphis nabbed 18 players, and all 18 were 3 stars. Their composite, 165.67. Number 2, Tulane, nabbed 21 players, 23 stars. Their composite, 165.84. And the number 1 recruiting class in the AAC, Cincinnati. They inked 22 players. They grabbed 3 4-star recruits, 19 3-stars, and a composite of 194.95. Here's what we can look for rating the AAC. Try to get through this last segment here as quick as I can. Fastest receiver, DeMonte Coxey. Best hands, Jaden Blue. Best passing QB, Shane Buechele. Best running back, Desmond Ryder. Most elusive running back, Shamari Brooks. Best athlete, Kenneth Gainwell. Top NFL prospect, Richie Grant, safety, UCF. Top freshman, Jaden Thompson, wide receiver, Cincinnati. Top transfer, Jerome Ford, running back, Cincinnati. Hardest hitter, Diego Fagot, linebacker, Navy. Best interview, Ken Niamatalo, head coach, Navy. Most innovative coach, Dana Holgerson, Houston. Coordinator to watch, Garrett Riley, the brother of Lincoln Riley. Offensive coordinator at SMU. Hottest seat, Philip Montgomery, coach at Tulsa. Top scholar, Bryson Powers, safety, Tulsa. And the best Twitter, at Cougar Football. This will conclude this episode. I hope you have enjoyed it. Tune back in with me tomorrow. Break down the teams individually. I've enjoyed this time. So take care of yourself and each other. This is yours truly, Anthony Smith. I'm out.